how to instantly find your repair costs in under 30 seconds in your wholesale deals. Guys, it's Rick in, and today we're talking about repair costs. Yes, you still got to know somewhat about this as a wholesaler. In this video, I'm going to show you how to spend the least amount of time so you can focus your efforts on finding the most motivated sellers. But before I get into it, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button, you hit that subscribe button so you continue to receive the best information on wholesaling today. So we're talking about repair costs, and I find a lot of wholesalers don't understand this. The reality is most wholesalers don't even wrap their head around what the cost to rehab a house is. And so say if you had a $700,000 house and needed $200,000 repair, you write a $500,000 contract thinking you're getting a $200,000 discount. But the reality is the seller just pulled the fast one over you because your contract is just minus off the rehab cost. And if you don't understand this fully, you're going to overpay for properties or have a lot of failed contracts. So when we look at a property and we see it's in rough shape, we have to calculate these numbers in. Otherwise, you don't really have a wholesale deal. In fact, I'm willing to bet that a lot of you have overpaid for properties and had to get out of contracts because you didn't understand how to calculate repair costs. And honestly, you felt overwhelmed with it. So the purpose of this video is to give you the easiest way to calculate this in 30 seconds or under. And let's get into it. So number one, use your visual eyes to look at a property. And you have to determine, does it need light rehab? Does it need intermediate or what we call medium rehab or what we call full rehab? The worst of the worst in repairs. So honestly, how you assess the classes of the scale of rehab a property needs is usually with your eyes. You can look at it. And honestly, sometimes when you look at the outside of the house, usually the inside is going to be reflective of it. Don't always assume it, but you have to calculate. Sometimes you guys are just walking through the outside of the property. And if the outside of the property is in rough shape, usually the inside is going to be of similar quality. And you want to keep that in mind. So the first thing you have to do, is it really, really bad or is it just light? And honestly, look at your own house, look at visual clues, and if they don't take care of the landscaping, the paint's chipping off on the outside, most likely you're going to have the same issues on the interior of the house, but it is up to you to make that decision. I'm going to show you how to classify them and show you how to break these numbers down. But before I get into breaking down the rehab cost, and we gave you the three categories, is I want you to understand, you are a wholesaler. You are not a realtor. So I don't want you to do comps for hours on end or weeks, which is what realtors do. They try to get the perfect price, nor are you a contractor. And to be honest with you, if you want a perfect assessment or the best guesstimate possible, a contractor would figure out what the repairs needed are on the property. But the reality is we're not contractors, and honestly, we're not going to probably hire contractors. So to get them to come out on those job sites can be very challenging. So I want to go through what I call a cheat sheet rehab worksheet. So you can simply calculate a number so you as a wholesaler can make an accurate offer based on the repairs needed for the property without being a licensed contractor, without doing 10 hours of comping, just so you can give your seller an offer. The reality as a wholesaler, guys, you got to understand this. If you have properties that need substantial rehab, you've got to buy them cheap. You have to buy them cheap. Think about it. If you don't buy it cheap, there's no point in doing it. Because here's what's going to happen. Your cash buyers, and especially in today's market, going into 2024 here, is if they do an extensive rehab, they have a tremendous amount of risk. What's the risk? The amount of money they put into it. Some will be $100K or more. But more importantly, it's the time. Honestly, a huge rehab can take 6 to 12 months to get done. That is a lot of time. In that time, they've got payments due on the house, taxes, insurance, utilities. It is endless. And the longer they hold it, the more at risk they are of not making a profit. In fact, the longer they hold it, you guys know what's going on with interest rates now. Somebody might have to sell a high-end property at like 8% interest or even 7%, which is a much harder sale than when they were at 3 to 5%. And so the fix and flip person takes on an incredible amount of risk. They have no idea for a flip that's going to be a year, possibly 2 years before they get it sold. They can tie up a ton of capital to get a very small return because not only they have money, their time risk, they have massive market risk. And the market, none of us control. In fact, you're caution to the wind. What if interest rates go to 9% and they fix up this beautiful property and they can't sell it? What if there's a real estate market crash? What if suddenly supply unloads on the market and prices drop and they sell the property for a loss? So these are the reasons, as a wholesaler, especially properties that need rehab, you have to get deep discounts or it's not worth it. No cash buyer, fix and flipper, is going to buy a property that needs heavy rehab that they can't make a substantial reward on it. The difference is substantial. They don't want a small amount of return. For them to be rewarded for the risk, which they rightfully should, they have to have a big discount. Guess what? If you don't have a big discount, you're not selling these properties. So let's figure out how to calculate rehab costs so you don't get stuck with bad contracts. So I'm going to show you a chart and we're going to go over it on your screen here. And let me pop it up for you. So we've already gone over light, medium, and heavy. Honestly, your visual clues will help you classify and how to do that. So the next chart moving left to right is going to be based on the square footage of the property. That's right. The bigger the property is, the more expense it costs to rehab. Now, this chart is not like the end all of end all, but it's a very good, quick, and dirty way to calculate rehab cost, and honestly in under 30 seconds or less. So say I have a 2,000 square foot property. How do you find that? You go on the tax records, ask the homeowner. It's really simple to get. And it needs medium work, meaning it's not light, it's definitely medium. It's not a full rehab, but like some of the bathrooms need to be redone, something like that. And we classify it as medium, 2,000 square feet. If you go ahead and look on your chart, you'll see on average, that's about $30,000. Now, here's a rule of thumb. As that number gets bigger, it takes more time to do rehab. Now, some fix and flippers can have a big staff or like a big contractor do all the work on it, but like most of them have 2 or 3 people at most that ever work on these properties. And every $10,000 usually on average will cost another 10 to 14 days. Now, I didn't put that in the chart, but I found that to be true. And honestly, with the rapid inflation, like just ramping it up, these numbers continually get upward pressures. This is just a base. It'd probably be more. And remember, if you have a high-end house, say it's by the water or something, I would probably add another 15% to these numbers because it's going to require a higher level of finishes, higher level of appliances, higher level of flooring, paint, etc. And you know how this works. So 2,000 square foot house, medium, 30,000 is the minimum. Guys, that's the minimum. So go ahead and factor that when you make your offer. And if you don't do that, remember, your job's not to get a yes on your first offer, it's actually to get a no, so you can start a negotiation to find out what your seller's bottom line number is. Now, I want you to keep this in mind when calculating repair costs. I'm talking about mostly cosmetics, interior walls, everything. This does not typically include appliances, the heavy stuff, roofs. It's not going to consider plumbing and electrical, and it's definitely not going to cover landscaping in most cases. See, when you factor out the big items, if you have a crappy AC, I would actually pull it out of these numbers because ACs cost significantly more. So on an average 1,500 square foot house, a good AC system is going to cost you around $6,000. Yeah, that's right, guys. Electrical, plumbing, roofs, foundation, landscaping is all going to be outside of these numbers. I'm doing it. So that's why it's so important as a wholesaler, you get the deepest discount possible, because the reality is your cash buyers, your fix and flips on these types of properties, they're going to have to be compensated for the risk they're taking. You're being compensated to be a professional marketer, to find distressed sellers, to find motivated sellers. But the last thing I want you to do is write a contract. You can't figure out how to calculate the repair cost and you get stuck. In fact, most of you watching this videos get stuck with paralysis by analysis and you don't know how to factor these numbers. That's why if you use the techniques we teach over at freewholesaling.com, how to go for no, it's hard to even screw up this part of it. But go ahead and use this cheat sheet. You see the examples. If you had light rehab and a 1,500 square foot house, roughly, you're basically looking around $20,000. And remember, that does not factor in the basis, the roof, the foundation, electrical, plumbing, landscaping, all that other fun stuff. This is just a guideline, guys, and it's the base. The numbers grow over time with the pressures of inflation. It's so important you guys get a deep discount so you can induce your fix and flip cash guys and gals to buy these properties, to fix them up, to take a ton of time, a ton of risk, and risk the market conditions if they get worse, because nobody knows the outcome in 6 to 12 months from now. That's why you have to buy at deep discounts. Now, a couple other tips on try to calculating rehab cost is, number one, ask the seller what the repair costs are. Now, most sellers are going to come in light. Some of them actually had contractors out there give them estimates and they can share it with you. But remember, if you don't don't ask, you're never going to get. So why don't you just ask the seller, like, what was the cost to rebuild the screen enclosure on the pool? Or what's the cost to fix up the pool? If they say $1,000 and you see fish swimming in the pool and it's green, it's highly inaccurate. It's probably like 10 grand, because once you let pools go south, you actually have to redo the entire thing. It's like stripping a car down to its base and rebuilding it. But you're never going to know if you don't ask, so start with the homeowner. Number two, reach out to a contractor friend, maybe someone who wrote you a bid, maybe they did work on your house, and ask them if you can buy them lunch, just do a quick and dirty estimate for you. And that is a great way to learn what the cost to rehab a property. Now, the worst thing you can do is buy these properties. You decide you're going to want to make all the money and you want to do the fix and flip yourself, only to find out that you hate fix and flipping. It is a job and it takes expertise. Now, don't learn this the hard way like I did, because here's the reality is once you start fixing up an old house, you open up the walls, there's always the risk of additional things going wrong. And it's the equivalent of like going to the dentist and having them start working on the tooth. Once they find out it's infected or something like that, they go ahead and do the root canal, or they outsource you to a root canal specialist. Once you open a wall is full of termites, you got to fix it. And whatever the cost is, you're stuck with it. That's why I don't do fix and flips. That's why I hate fix and flips, especially on older homes. It is extremely risky. Remember, your area of expertise is a wholesaler. You're going to focus on marketing to motivated sellers to get control of a deal, to earn the highest return with the lowest amount of risk. The reality is a fix and flipper is the person who takes the most amount of risk, which my opinion is a modest reward, because if you fix up 10 houses, one or two of them usually won't work out. Let the fix and flippers take these properties. Remember, your job is just to create a quick and dirty estimate of the rehab. If you'll use our rehab cheat sheet, you can find it over at freewholesaling.com. You can refer to that. And honestly, listen, if a property looks rough, guys, you should be not making offers near your MAO, your maximum allowable offer. Honestly, you should be making offers at your LAO, the least allowable offer. Why? Because these properties have so many unknown repairs needed into them that you need it at a deep discount to induce your cash buyers, your fix and flippers, to buy these properties. The last thing you want to do is pay for the property minus the repairs, because honestly, you could go to MLS and get that stuff all day long. So guys, are you going to use our cheat sheet here at freewholesaling.com? Make sure you go over there and use it. Let me know in the comments if you believe this sheet's accurate. Guys, prices only go up over time. Remember, it's just the base model, a simple number to get you started to minus off your numbers. And if you use the cheat sheet at freewholesaling.com and our Go for No method, both of them are shared at freewholesaling.com, you are on your way to be a successful wholesaler. So remember, you've got to buy these properties at deep discounts. Don't ever forget it, because in the end, you are a wholesaler. You're not a realtor, you're not a contractor, but you have to factor in the rehab costs. Guys, go out there and write the right contracts, make them stick, and have the most success possible. Sell these properties to fix and flippers. Let them take the risk. You get the biggest reward, and keep finding more and more motivated sellers. Listen, if you got value from this video, do me a favor. Make sure you smash that like button. You hit that subscribe button. This is Rick Gannon. I'll see you in the next video.